Tal Wilkenfeld and MOHINI DEY are currently two of the most acclaimed bass players in contemporary music. Both came to our attention seemingly out of the blue and made an immediate impact on the international music scene. Both are equally skilled but have different approaches and musical styles. Tal's playing is jazz influenced with the emphasis on mood, melody and expression. In contrast, MOHINI's playing is nimble, percussive and groove-based, due mainly to her Indian music upbringing. Yet both are well-rounded musicians and can explore all manner of playing styles with ease. Tal's early musical influences include Jimi Hendrix, Herbie Hancock and Rage Against the Machine, to name a few. MOHINI's influences include Jaco Pastorius, Victor Wooten, Marcus Miller, Stanley Clarke, Zakir Hussain, A.R. Rahman and, more importantly, the conical rhythms of her homeland. Here, both Tal and MOHINI explain the spark that lit their flame for music.
I mean, literally just me walking past a guitar that was hanging on a wall and me deciding to pick it up after never seeing anybody play a guitar. And then I just got really emotional and knew instantly that that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Well, I started learning at the age of 3 from my daddy. Financially, we were not that strong at that point of time, but he made a bass out of his own hands, and he gave me that bass, and he started teaching me on that handmade bass. The first lesson I remember taking was Daddy Mummy. That was the first exercise I got to learn from him. And then, I think I seriously started taking lessons when I was around 6-ish. And then I was already on road professionally working by the age of, say, 9.5, 10.
Tal Wilkenfeld is known for her work with Jeff Beck, Prince, Herbie Hancock, Chick Corea and more. Here, Tal explains her entry into the music industry.
You know, I started on the guitar, and then when I switched to the bass, I quickly decided that I wanted to move, because I started in LA. I was like, I want to move to New York, and I was exposed to Wayne Krantz and Anthony Jackson, and I was like, I just want to move to New York and play jazz and meet these guys, and that's when I started, the wheels started spinning, and I was like, well, I want to play with Chick Corea, and I want to, do this and that, and those things did end up happening, which was cool.
Yeah, in fact, they seem to happen just really quickly, and you had a great reputation almost out of the blue. How did that happen?
I don't know, other than, I guess I have good luck, and I guess I worked my ass off. I was playing in clubs multiple times a night once I moved to New York, and that's how I met a couple of the members of the Allman Brothers band, who then had me on stage with them at the Beacon Theater. That was my first real, it wasn't even my gig, but it was my first kind of performance on a real stage. When I was still living in LA and I'd just been playing bass for a few months, I was asked to do a clinic at the school that I was at with a drummer from Canada. And he was best friends with Vinny Colaiuta. And so he invited Vinny, and that's when I first met Vinny, and he's like, yeah, we should play sometime. And I was like, thinking, no way. But I kept it in my head, and then when I came back to LA and I was at the NAMM show, he then saw me playing there, and he's like, oh, we should play. And then that's when we got together, and I made a solo record with Wayne Krantz and a lot of my favorite musicians, and I had the Allman Brothers recording, and then that's how the Jeff Beck thing happened. And once the Jeff Beck thing happened, Prince then saw me on TV with Jeff Beck, and so did Herbie Hancock, and things just started happening from a couple of those performances with Jeff Beck. There was a performance at Ronnie Scott's that we did, like a DVD, and a performance at Crossroads Festival. They were both in 2007, and so that's kind of like what made my phone ring.
Mohini Dey's entry into the music industry came mainly through working with her father.
I used to bunk school days and I'd just be at home and just practice by myself, or I would kind of go tag along by my daddy, and wherever he used to perform, I would just accompany him, just sit in the audience area and just see him play on stage, or sometimes I would even sound check for him, or just the day before the recording session, he would play me the song and he would ask me to write a chart for him so that he can check later on when he starts recording. So that would be, it's like simultaneously I'm getting trained also, and not just enjoying, but at the same time getting trained. So I actually started writing and reading. I learned to read and write before I started playing. So yeah, that helped me a lot. Yeah, so that was my journey. And then my dad had this really close friend called Ranjit Barrett. He is the drummer for John McLaughlin. He tours with John McLaughlin. And he took me to Ranjit Barrett's studio, Nirvana studio, at the age of around 11. And he said that, I have a music for you. That music was actually, he meant a CD, but it was me. It was not a CD. They were just kidding. And I was there, and I was with my big bass. By that time, I had a Fender Jazz bass that my dad gave me. And Ranjit uncle was like, so where's the CD? And dad goes, well, here's the CD. And he points towards me. And then I start playing. I actually played one of Victor's tunes that I really loved. And he was mind blown, and he got me to play on his album called Baraboom. It had Lenny Krantz, John McLaughlin, Zakir Hussain, Dominic DePiazza, Matt Garrison, some of the biggest names of the jazz industry, and I was really honored to be on that album. So yeah, I just try and pick up like few little nice things from every musician that I hear. But to name a few, I think would be Victor Wooten, Jack Pastorius, of course, Ibrahim Laboriel, Marcus Miller, Stanley Clarke. And in today's time, I listen to a lot of Adrian Farrod, Federico, Anton Davidians. So these are really close friends of mine, and we just learn from each other by looking at each other's videos that we put out online. Yeah.
So did it take you long to find the combination of bass and amp to find your tone?
No, that happened like instantly too. Although my amp and bass aesthetic is much broader now. But at the time, my initial amp, which was with ABS, also happened at a similar convention, although it wasn't called, I forget what it was called. It was in New York. It may have only been for bass players, but it was like a mini NAMM show type thing, and the EBS rig was there, and I tried, and I was like, yeah, this would be great. And I already know like Marcus. He was like one of the first people that like mentored me a little bit. I mean, even though we only got together like a couple times, but he was a really nice, kind human to me, and he was playing EBS, so I already knew, and I just liked it, and it worked for what I was doing at the time. Now, like, both bass-wise and amp-wise, it's really like a song-by-song choice, as opposed to like, I'm just going to play one amp and one bass. Now, especially with this album that I've just put out called Love Remains, I'm playing like, live, I play bass maybe 80 to 90% of the time on that material, because sometimes I play guitar and my guitarist will play bass. And most of that record is done on a P bass. It was actually Jackson Browne's P bass. I didn't have a P bass at the time, but now I have my own P bass. But yeah, most of that stuff was on a P bass. Under the Sun, I did on a Harmony, an H22, which I also take on the road with me. And then there's this one song called Haunted Love, which I play on a 5-string Sadowsky, strung E to high C, and I put a capo on it because I like to use open strings, but it's just in a higher key. So those are the three basses I sort of go between live. When I'm at home in the studio, I have some EB2s that I really like. I have an EB2 and an EB3, and then I'm trying to think like what I mean. I have like an old Fender Jazz bass. That's pretty much like the collection of instruments that I play.
Currently using, well, I use Mark bass amps. I endorse Mark bass amps, mayonnaise basses, SID strings, groove gear, Layton bassware, Boss pedals. Yes.
Did it take a bit of experimentation to find the combination of bass and amp? Right?
No, not at all. I always knew that Mark bass was the amp for me because, like I said, I've been in the industry for the past 11 years working, so I've tried almost every amp, whatever we have in India. And of course, every time I used to tour abroad, I used to get a lot of these other amps like Ampegs and Agulars and Mark bass. I would always ask for Mark bass or Ampegs or Agulars or TC Electronic, you know, these kind of amps, because I always wanted to kind of try different kind of stuff to see what works with my sound, what works with my kind of playing, because I have a different technique and I look forward to more definition and not too roundy sound. So and Mark bass is, I think, one of the best amps that's existing today, because no matter what equalization you do, no matter what changes you make, the body is still there, the bottom end is still there. Like I said, I like more mid-lows and more definition and clear sound, because when you play fast stuff, it's really hard to hear notes. And I've noticed that when I play in other amps, it's really like sloppy. It's really messy when you play like fast stuff. You want it to be not sloppy. You want it to be clean and not messy, you know. So that way Mark bass is so nice. No matter what you do, it's so clean and signal is so clean, and it just delivers more personality, you know, more than yourself, which is really good.
Both Tal and Mohini tell us what they get out of playing with other musicians and tell us what music means to them.
Playing with guys like Beck and Krantz, what do you take from that? What do you learn?
I think what you learn can't be said in words, otherwise everybody would know that information. Like, I think that what you learn is experiential, and like by like having a conversation with a musician of that caliber and experience, you start to almost digest their instincts, and then you got to look at those things that you've picked up from people, and decide if you want to keep that as part of your vernacular. Like, just like when you speak to someone with a certain kind of accent for a while, you might start to sound like them. It happens musically like that too. You're really just having a conversation with somebody else, like a musical conversation. So that, I don't know that I could say, well, I think you could hear maybe what I've learned, or maybe not, but they definitely influenced me.
It means freedom for me, absolute freedom for me. I don't find myself fitting in anywhere apart from music. I don't even know what I would have been, probably a fashion designer. But the zone I get into, it's like you get into this subconscious mode when you're playing music. It's like praying for me. I don't pray as such in my whole day, never actually. But when I'm playing music, I think I pay respect to a greater power. So that keeps me going, and it just kind of calms me down, and it's very satisfying. There's nothing which can satisfy me more than music. So that's like the best situation and best space that I can be in, I guess.